Hello and welcome to this second episode of What's Your Next Trade? We're going to be looking at what is a schizophrenic market. So quick disclaimer, look at the bottom of this page, read the disclaimer. So this week was a pretty intense week in the UK with the start on Monday with the new Prime Minister and unfortunately on Thursday the death of Queen Elizabeth. So here in the UK it's a pretty weird week. The weekend we went this morning near Buckingham Palace, so that was quite emotional. Now let's talk about market and why we are facing a schizophrenic market. Looking at the week-to-date performances, looking first at the stock market. As you can see, S&P, Nasdaq are up 4%, which is the total opposite of last week. So this is why I wanted to call this quick review a schizophrenic market. Literally, we have been on a risk on. And this risk on started around Wednesday, and more importantly, really kick out from Thursday. One of the two reasons was first Powell that was talking, the Fed chairman, and secondly the ECB. And as we saw last week, it is very important to be looking at the catalyst of the week to understand, when the market could be moving. So from Thursday onwards, we had a 36 hours of big move across asset classes. And actually, for the first time for quite some time, the dollar has been a bit weakening. So that was true against the Japanese yen, true versus the euro. And that has been the idea of the end of the week. That is here the week-to-date industries performance, which is literally the opposite. If you remember and if you watched last week webinar, clearly we had only the US dollar that was positive last week. And this week it has been a bit down, just a bit. We are talking less than 1%. Other than that, almost every other industries except the treasuries, bonds, which are not industries, which are assets, have been up. And we are talking even 8% from the solar industry, healthcare, almost up 8%. So literally a risk-on story for this week. And what is interesting as well is if we look at the bonds, looking at this table, you can see that the bonds week to date, which are here, the yields have been up on the week. So bonds have been selling off. In other words, for this week, the market has been pricing more hawkish central banks. And that is true for in Europe, as we can see here with the German bonds, the Bund, the 10 years Bund, which is up 17 bips on the week, but that's true as well for the US 10 year, the treasuries, which are up 12 bips. So literally across bond market, we have seen bonds selling off, yields going up, except Japan and China. So Japan, as we discussed midweek, that is why the Japanese yen mostly is down versus the US dollar. So what we had for this week, interestingly, is actually stock market being up and bonds selling off. So yields going higher and the equity market actually doing pretty well. And an interesting chart for you to understand is the euro dollar. So in red here, we get the line that we had 5 days ago for the euro dollar. In blue, we get the last as of yesterday. And as you can see, everything has been coming down week on week, meaning in other words that we are expecting the market is now pricing a more hawkish Fed than it was a week ago. So ECB expected to be more hawkish, Fed expected to be more hawkish, and despite all of this, equity market literally has been digesting the information pretty well and is up 3 to 4% in the US. What about the VIX? And very often when the equity market is doing well, what you see on the equity on the implied volatility is the implied volatility going down. So volatility went from roughly 25% to 22.67% on the week. The VIX future time structure is more or less the same. So quickly, I would like to jump onto the technical analysis. So what I've done for the week is I've been looking more or less at the same indexes and assets than last week. But I think what was interesting is instead of looking at the daily chart, what you can do on TradingView is looking on the weekly chart. So what is the weekly chart telling you is you're going to have the same resistance support that you want to do. Make no mistake, there's a lot of discretionary. So you be always careful with the technical analysis. But what is interesting from that chart is you can see this green candle is more or less the opposite of the red that we had the previous week. And the close that we had as of yesterday evening is more or less the open or the close, that we had a couple of weeks ago. So really a schizophrenic market. Market is indecisive of where to go next. That is true as well with the Nasdaq, where the candle is, we have been making new lows on the week versus the week before and new highs versus the week before. But the channel, the direction is still the same, which is lower. So what was interesting for the week on the S&P is we make new lows. I thought at one stage that we will, when we broke the 38.90 roughly, that we will be going lower. And as I told you last week, I think that the lot of level is around the 38.30. But in terms of gamma, in terms of the options, we are into the 4100. So there is this big magnet, this natural magnet of the options of the gamma. We're gonna have this Friday the option expiry, and that is making a natural magnet to this market. After this expiry, that is something else to see. Interestingly as well is the Russell 2000 has been making new lows on the week but not new highs. So it has been a good indicator of how the market breadth or how the market has been behaving. And this index is not as strong as the other two. Looking at the DAX, you can see same, there is indecision of where we should be going. We have not been making new lows on the week, so there is a bit of hope, but the direction still looks pretty down to me. I wanted as well to be looking at two charts of companies that will be having their earnings this week. So here we are looking at Oracle, and you can see Oracle is now challenging the top of this range. In terms, if you have position, if you are looking for options, it is pretty clear that the 73.50 is a big level. Looking at Adobe, same, that would be coming with their earnings this week. Pretty important level around the 360. What I find interesting with Adobe or for any stocks is always to be looking at the strength versus the index or versus their own industry ETF. So here I've been taking Adobe versus IGV, IGV being the software ETF, and as you can see, IGV really has been struggling. The recent 2 years, I mean, making a top, and that has been consolidating since then. So that tells you a lot about where a market leader could be going. For the time being, Adobe has not really given any direction. Nvidia that we discussed last week. Very important level around the 130, 135, still holding, but not enough strong volume for this to be very decisive. And then on the stock, I would like to end up with the Shopify. So Shopify has been trading between 30 and 41.40. So if you are playing or if you are investing, trading with options, you can see that since May, the trading range has been 30 to 40. If you are expecting some bigger moves after the earnings, you know where to play, where to put your strikes. There will be 30 or there will be 40, 41. Finally, quickly looking at the currencies, and we're going to go back into our weekly chart just to see that the trend is still the same. Trend is down for the euro. We have been making new lows. We have been bouncing on that, but literally this is the same as the indexes, as the stocks indexes. We are just making some bouncing and dollar yen. So dollar yen, really, this is a chart to monitor. We got a nice candle on the way back. Having said that, in terms of catalyst, the catalyst will come in the next 10 days. Finally, looking at oil, looking at WTI, this is an interesting one. So it looked ugly until Wednesday, Thursday, when it broke the 84, 85 levels. And as I mentioned last week, there is not much before 35, 75, sorry, on the way down. It managed to save this level. So that is really a one to watch for this week in terms of risk on, risk off. So let's look now back into what happened this week. So we had the PMI services that we see here. So PMI services, the picture is more or less the same. So we are coming down. That is true for the global one. That is here we get the comment on the US ones. So if you've been reading from the market monthly paper, the comments about the US services, the picture is pretty dull. Actually, the PMI services was a bit better. So that was the picture from Tuesday. Then we have the correlation between the dollar yen and the differential between the US and the US 10 years and the Japanese 10 years. That is the same. You can do exactly the same chart versus the euro dollar as long as the Fed is that hawkish. And as we've seen 5 minutes ago, that yields in the US really are coming up. That's going to be very positive for the US dollar. So US dollar was king, it was on steroids. Then we had a bit of a reversal, 1%, 1 to 2% from Thursday. So that is true versus the Japanese yen, that is true versus the euro. One of the things to monitor for US trader is versus the Chinese yuan. Why? Because we know that China is into a big lockdown. We know more importantly that in October they will have their big meeting. So really want to monitor because the Japanese yen is pulling many currencies in the region, in Asia. And from Thursday, what we had this week, as I said before, ECB meeting, we got Powell, and the picture was more or less the same. We're going to be hawkish. All the yields, all the bonds, the bonds sold off, yields going up, and despite that, the market went higher. What is interesting from the gamma positioning, as we have on Friday, the OPEX, is the positioning of the market is around 4,100 for the option. And if you look at the CTAs, what they have been doing this week is they have been massively or aggressively selling December 2023 euro dollar and selling a lot of bonds. So really the way the momentum has been for bonds to go lower. We had on Friday the energy meeting in Europe. Unfortunately, I listened for 2 or 3 hours to this meeting, where at the end of the day they didn't find any agreement. It feels to me like they can't find an agreement as long as Germany is not able to secure a bit more of their supply, which is not the case yet. So more time needed. In terms of catalyst, so this is for the week coming. So we have on Tuesday, really I try to look at what is the most important time. Is on Tuesday we get the US CPI. That is very important. There is a good chance that now we reach the peak on the CPI, so that should be a positive in terms of momentum. Having said that, many Fed governors have been saying that one number is not enough. So keep in mind that US CPI is on Tuesday. Wednesday, you will get the US PPI. And a week after, which is here, we get the FOMC meeting on Wednesday, the Bank of Japan meeting on Thursday, and on the same day, the Bank of England. So we were supposed to have the Bank of England this Thursday because of the passing of the Queen Elizabeth. They moved everything to the week after. Another number that's going to be important is the US retail sales. Why is it so important? Because we are going into a very important time for the US sales, which is from October onwards, where we're going to have Thanksgiving, where we're going to have Christmas. So that is a very important shopping season for all the distributors. This is the season where they could be really making money or not. Then on Friday, very important for the newcomers and the others, this is the option expiry. So this is what we call the quadruple witching, where a lot of financial products are expiring, and as well in terms of special situation, we do and have a lot of index rebalancing. So those are the things that we will be looking when we talk in the Discord community. So that's something that is looking at new ideas, both on the quadruple witching, index rebalancing, and everything that is macro. In terms of performance recently for the week during just before the OPEX, I just wanted to give you a bit more color. So here, this is for 2022. As you can see, already most of the months have been on the way down. The only month that was up was March, and up big time. And if you put everything into consideration, so we get March, which is the big expiry, then we get the June, that is the big expiry, and now we are going into the September. So there is a question mark, as I said before, the gamma is at 4,100, so this is 50 bips, 1% from here, so not pretty much close. If you look at how the OPEX has been over the last recent years, the last 2 years it has been done minus 0.5% roughly. So looking at what happened before doesn't mean that it's going to happen again, but that gives you a bit of understanding of what has been the momentum. And if you're playing with the odds, that gives you a bit more clarity. So that is it for this week. So a schizophrenic market, very interesting. We are bouncing, but instead of bouncing and selling around 1 to 2%, this is quite a large market. In terms of range between 3,900, 4,100 for the S&P. So that gives you 200 points or 5%. So make sure that you don't sell in a hole or buy at the top. This is more or less what we have for the time being, as long as we don't have any big changes, keeping in mind that the big changes could come in 10 days with the FOMC meeting, the Bank of Japan, and after the OPEX. So after the OPEX, we're going to have resettling of the positioning of options and a lot of hedging or direction, and that will be true from Monday onwards in 10 days time. So for really, this is something that we cover in the 4x4 video series. This is something that I do with my mentees during the mentoring. So if you're looking for more information, you can go on DupontTrading.com. To watch these videos, please subscribe to the channel. That helps. That gives some momentum. If you like to join the trading community, you can join. I will put the link below in this video. And if you got any questions, you can send me an email at greg@DupontTrading.com. So again, schizophrenic market, be safe. Look at this OPEX on Friday. This is going to be the big day for the week. I hope it helps, and I'll see you soon. All the best. Bye-bye.